The Life in the Hereafter. What does the Quran say? Translation of Jahan-e-Fada by Ajaz Rasul. Ghulam Ahmad Parwez 1969. 14. Giving life to the dead. Now we come to this important aspect of an individual's life which relates to his receiving life again after death. This is called life after death or life in the hereafter. This is the most sensitive and delicate subject in the whole discussion. For this we need to first understand some things about the present worldly life of man. 14.1 Human birth. The Quran states, "Has there not been over man a long period of time, when he was nothing, not even mentioned?" 76. 1. Human creation began from clay, inert material. 32. 7. However, this inorganic matter does not have any signs of life in it. Life is dependent on water. We made from water every living thing. 21. 30. Therefore life began with the mixing of clay and water. Them have we created out of a sticky clay. 37. 11. This is the same clay which lies close to a body of water, is like dark-colored mud and when dried, becomes crumbly. We created man from sounding clay, from mud, molded into shape. 15. 26. 2. This way, through the mixing of clay and water, the first life cell came into existence. From here, life passed through various stages of evolution and branched, progressing forwards and in the process changed to various forms. The Quran has called this first life cell a single cell, unicellular, as there is no distinction between male and female at this stage. The Quran says, "It is He who has produced you from a single cell. Here is a place of sojourn and a place of departure." We detail our signs for people who understand. 6. 98. 3. This is how life emerged from this earth and its branches spread all around. In it was one branch which took the shape of sexual reproduction. The Quran points to this. And Allah has produced you from the earth growing gradually. 71. 17. Does not man see that it is we who created him from sperm? 36. 77. Up to this point, the birth of men and animals is similar, so much so that the stages of a human embryo are not dissimilar from those of other mammals. After this, a distinctive personality is produced in man that differentiates him from animals. This point requires deep reflection. This is that particular stage when a human child develops different characteristics which are not part of animal development. This is the point where the Quranic concept of human life differs from the materialistic concept. This is the trait which provides a basis for the foundation of Deen as a system and as explained in the Quran. In Surah Sajdah it is stated, "He rules all affairs from the heavens to the earth. In the end will all affairs go up to him on a day, the space whereof will be as 1,000 years of your reckoning." 32. 5. The scheme is conceived in Allah's domain of Amra. Then to take shape, it begins on earth just as a seed grows. Then that scheme goes through many evolutionary stages before reaching its final intended destination. The time duration for this scheme could be very long, as one day by Allah's reckoning may be the equivalent of 1,000 years by human calculation. This is how this scheme, through thousands of years from its starting point, reaches its final outcome. The creation of man is also one part of this scheme. He began the creation of man with clay. 32. 7. This is how life gradually reached an animal stage where, and made his progeny from a quintessence of the nature of a fluid despised. 32. 8. Up to now there was no difference in the birth of a human child and an animal, both were passing through the same process up to this stage. But after this, the human creation diverged from the animal creation. But he fashioned him in due proportion, and breathed into him divine energy. And he gave you the faculties of hearing and sight and feeling, and understanding. 32:9. After creating a special balance in man, Allah put a small part of divine energy into him. This is what gives man his distinct status, i.e., he was given a part of divine energy, which is called human personality. And this is what converted him into a man with responsibility and possession of free will. He is given the ability to hear and see, the means by which to attain knowledge, and a mind which gives him the ability to make decisions. 32:9. When he became capable of making decisions, he then became responsible for his actions. In the above verses, 32:7-9, firstly man is referred to in the third person, but after mentioning the breathing in of divine energy, man is addressed in the form of second person I.e., you. Someone can only be addressed as you if he can refer to himself as I. This is man's I amness which gives him individuality. In Surah Mominun, after mentioning various stages of the development of a human child, the Quran states, "Then we made out of that lump bones, and clothed the bones with flesh. Then we developed out of it another creature." 23:14. Then we turned him into such a creation, the human self, which was different from the previous stages. This human self is neither part of the human body nor is it subject to the physical laws. This is the reason that death comes to the body and not to the self. And why the self can survive beyond the physical disintegration of the body. The name of this survival is the life after death, or the life in the hereafter. This human self is given to every child. However, it is in an undeveloped form. A man's righteous deeds, which the Quran calls amal-e-saleh, help to develop this self, and in the words of the Quran the self thus becomes crystallized. In Surah Nuh, it is stated, "Seeing that it is He that has created you in diverse stages." 71:14. Allah has put you through different stages gradually and made you in the form of man. Now you should desire from Allah that you can use this opportunity and work for your self-development. Why don't you seek self-development from Allah? 71:13. Thus it will attain strength of character, and this will lead to immortality. According to the Quran, man's present form is not the final stage of its evolutionary progression. At this latest stage of life, after going through all the previous evolutionary stages, a new stage has emerged. Now after physical death a new evolutionary stage will start, which will be called the next life. The Quran states, "You will surely travel from stage to stage." 84:19. In another verse it is reiterated differently, that after making a beginning, and then taking it through subsequent stages, it is He who creates from the very beginning, from nothing, and He can restore life, and recreate. 85:13. But these further stages of human life are not on this earth, because as the Quran states, man cannot return to this world. Until when death comes to one of them, he says, "O my Rabb, send me back to life, in order that I may work righteousness in the things I neglected." By no means. It is but a word he says. Before them is a partition till the day they are raised up. 23:99-100. In Surah Shu'ara, the people who have earned hell will say, "Now if we only had a chance of return, we shall truly be of those who have Iman." 26:102. See also 7:53-39. 58. If only we could go back to this life just once, then we would certainly be of the righteous. The flow of time is only forward. Either it stops at a place e.g., the death of the human body, or it goes forward as the human self proceeds forward from the realm of this life to the next. The awakening of the human self is characterized by its self-consciousness, and it is this self-consciousness which continues forward after death. In Surah Zumar this is concisely stated. It is Allah that takes the self of men at death, and those that die not, He takes during their sleep. Those on whom He has passed the decree of death, He keeps back from returning to life, but the rest He sends to their bodies, for a term appointed. Verily in this are signs for those who reflect. 39:42. In this, for those people who use intellect and reason, there are great signs to reach reality. The awakening of this self-consciousness is what makes us human. If it vanishes, then man will live the life of an animal. This is a state of extreme degradation, and for a thoughtful human being this is actually a state of great hell. The Mu'mineen have been cautioned regarding this state. And do not be like those who forgot Allah, and He made them forget their own self. 59:19. The consequence for those who forgot Allah was that they ignored their own self. And as a result their sense of self disappeared, and they degraded themselves from the human level to the animal level. In Surah Muhammad, while those who reject Allah will enjoy this world, and eat as cattle eat. 47:12. Those who deny the existence of the life of the hereafter. Their common argument is that the body after death disintegrates and reverts to different elements and in this way disappears into the soil, so there is no question of man getting another life. The Quran answers this question. We already know how much of them the earth takes away. With us is a record guarding the full account and is preserved. 54. How will this preserved self get a new life? What form will it take in the next life? What will be its state of perception? We cannot understand these aspects with our present level of consciousness. Our ability to perceive is confined to the physical environment of this worldly life, and the next life is not going to be a physical existence like the one in this life. Therefore we cannot grasp its concept. The Quran, while declaring repeatedly that it will be of a totally different form, describes it using images from this life as examples. Apart from this we have no other method of understanding it. For example, we observe that dead bodies are buried in the ground, and the Quran has referred to the new life by saying that the dead will rise from the graves. Addressing the progeny of Adam, the Quran says, He said, therein you will live, and therein you will die. But from it you will be taken out. 7:25. In Surah Taha. From the earth did we create you, and into it shall we return you, and from it shall we bring you out once again. 20:55. We know that a human being did not arise in its completed form from the earth. Being created from the earth is a reference to the beginning of life. So after death, being created from the earth does not mean that the human body will be raised up from the graves, it is a reference to the emergence of a new form of life. In another verse it is stated, and Allah has produced you from the earth growing gradually, and in the end He will return you into the earth, and raise you forth. 71:18-19. And in another verse, that Allah will raise up all who are in the graves. 22:7. It is obvious that the dead will not be directly raised up from the graves, as many bodies are cremated, disposed of in a watery grave, electrocuted, etc. The aim here is just to make us understand. In other verses different terms are used for graves, which mean the same e.g. c. 36. 51:54. 7:70. 43. In Surah Yasin the term used is marqad, which means bedroom. 36:52. In another verse, it is stated that He will call to you and you will rise up from the earth. 30. 25. In another verse it is stated that we have such power that we can recreate every bit of your body that is in pieces. 75. 4. After explaining through illustrations from this life, the Quran makes it clear that in the next life man will not have his current form. Body. It will be a new creation such that you cannot understand it now. The Quran says, "We have decreed death for everyone and we are not to be frustrated from changing your forms and creating new again, in forms that you know not." 56. 60-61. In Surah Luqman there is a very delicate indication regarding the new form of life in the hereafter which will be different from this life. We have seen with regard to the initial human creation that it started from a single cell i.e., through the mixing of clay and water. Obviously, this single cell came into being from mud, but possessing those characteristics which were neither in water nor in clay. This new creation was totally different. Presenting this reality, the Quran says, "And your creation and your resurrection is in no wise but as an individual self." 31. 28. As the first life cell came into being, leaving behind the inert matter from which it received a new form with different characteristics, in the same way the human self leaves its disposable physical body behind, and in the journey of life, enters into such a valley which cannot be imagined by us. This physical form will be changed, but every individual's self-consciousness will be retained, so that the self with this self-consciousness will leave the physical body and move forward to a different plane of existence. Man will go forward with his own individuality. In Surah An'am it is stated, "And behold, you will come to us bare and alone as we created you for the first time. You will leave behind you all the favors which we bestowed on you." 6. 94. At another place, it states that you will come to us with your individuality. 19. 80. 19. 95. The record of man's deeds which during his life was like a scroll wrapped up will be unveiled like an open book and he will be told, "Read your own record. Sufficient is your own self this day to make out an account against you." 17. 14. See also 7. 37, 75. 14. In Surah Nahl it is noted, "One day every self will come up quarreling with itself, and every self will be recompensed fully for all its actions, and none will be unjustly dealt with." 16. 111. The actions which were made very attractive to man and lured him in this worldly life due to his vested interests, those deeds on that day will scream out that they were evil. In Surah Kahf, he will be told, "You were heedless of this. Now have we removed your veil, and sharp is your sight this day." 50. 22. At that time, you had drawn curtains over your sight, because of which you could not see the truth and reality. Today those veils have been lifted and your sight has now become sharp to such a degree that you can see through everything. Now there is nothing that can remain hidden from you. 86. 9, 10, 45. Regarding those evil companions with whom he associated and who colluded with him in doing wrong, he will say, "Ah, woe is me! Would that I had never taken such a one for a friend." 25. 28. Those hypocrites, who in this life used to deceive their friends, will find them in front of them, and their real character will then become exposed. The hypocrites will be in hell, while the mu'mineen will be in paradise, and between them will be a wall which will have a gate. 57. 13. There will be a severe altercation between the religious leaders and their simple followers. 37. 21-22. There will also be a heated quarrel between the leaders and their followers whom they used for their interests. This has been referred to in the Quran at a number of places, e. G. 14, 21, 33, 67 to 68, 34, 32 to 33, 38, 60, 40, 47 to 49. Similarly, in hell various parties will curse each other and will say they misguided them. 7, 38 to 39. At that time those who will be in hell, through hopelessness and desperation will cry out, "Verily, we have warned you of a penalty near, the day when man will see the deeds which his hands have sent forth, and the unbeliever will say, Woe unto me! Would that I were dust." 78, 40. How this mutual recognition will work and what form this mutual argument will take place, we cannot understand at our present level of consciousness. According to the Quran, this is an established reality in which there is no room for doubt. Conviction, Iman, in the next life is a required condition to be a Muslim, and this is a natural consequence of the conviction in the working of the law of requital. 14.2 The moral view of reality. As noted earlier, the whole discussion and argument about the human self and life after death are based on the functioning of the law of requital. It does not mean that without these concepts, the human self and life after death, belief in the law of requital would remain unrecognized, and therefore these concepts are invented as a reason to accept the law of requital. This is not true. Allah has created the universe and man himself in such a way that these three concepts, the law of requital, the human self and life after death, emerge as a reality. If this whole creation had come into existence accidentally, then these concepts would have been irrelevant. But the Quran declares that the creation of the universe and man is part of a grand design and has a purpose, and is not for play and amusement. In Surah Dukhan it is stated, "We created not the heavens, the earth, and all between them, merely in sport. We created them for just ends. But most of them do not make use of knowledge and vision to reflect." 44, 38 to 39. Regarding the purpose of creation, the Quran declares, Allah created the heavens and the earth for just ends, and in order that each self may find the recompense of what it has earned, and none of them be wrong. 45, 22. About man himself, the Quran states, "Did you then think that we had created you in jest, and that you would not be brought back to us?" 23, 116. Allah, who evidently possesses all power and sovereignty, is far above this, that any such view should be held about him, that he created without any purpose and he indulges in aimless play. Does man think that he will be left uncontrolled, without purpose? 75, 36. This type of belief is false. The caravan of life is not without a destination. Human creation is not aimless. Every breath of his life which a man takes provides evidence that he is either going towards his objective or is turning far away from it. He has yet to traverse many more evolutionary stages, and the purpose of his life on this planet is to develop his self in such a way that it is able to go forward after his physical death and become capable of rising higher. Death is in fact a test for him to see how successful he has been in achieving this objective. He who created death and life, that you may get opportunities for righteous deeds. 67. 2. This reality is stated in Surah Yunus. It is he who begins the process of creation, and repeats it, that he may reward with justice those who have Iman and work righteousness. 10. 4. Life after death is another part of this process. Verily, this is the very truth in which there is not an iota of doubt. 56, 95. 14.3 Those who deny the next life. Life after death is the basis of Deen. It is an inseparable part of the program for the accomplishment of advancing the human self to its heights. The Quran has repeatedly referred to this. Before referring to these verses, it is important to mention that my purpose in writing this book is not to convince those people who do not accept the existence of Allah, the revelation, the human self, and life after death. The purpose of this book is to present Quranic explanations for these realities. This is the reason why the scope of this work is confined to these limits. Otherwise, in our time the issue of life in the hereafter out with the Quran has had so much written about it, that if it had been brought under discussion, it would itself have become another book. Suffice it to say that in modern times, according to research done on the human self, though they are not able to say anything with certainty regarding the possibility of immortality, survival after death has not been completely ruled out. Even this much research in this area is enough to counter the argument of the materialist concept of life. The Quran brings out one aspect of the mentality of the opponents who reject this reality and who demand that in order for them to accept life after death, they want to be shown the dead being brought back to life. And this is their ignorance. That thing, human self, which is what remains after death, and cannot be seen even in a living human being with the naked eyes. How can it be seen in a dead body? This can only be understood through the use of intellect and reasoning. The Quran addresses such people saying, they know but the outer things in the life of this world, but of the end of things they are heedless. Do they not reflect in their own self? 37-8. In another verse, the Quran says that the way these people carry out their work on earth, using thinking and reasoning abilities, if they also used these to reflect on life after death, they would understand this reality as well. Thus does Allah make clear to you His signs, in order that you reflect and reason to understand these. 219. The criticizers wanted to see life after death with their own eyes, while the Quran invites them to use their visionary eyes of intellect and reasoning. When we are actually dust, shall we indeed then be in a creation renewed? 13:5. In Surah Bani Israel, they say, what? When we are reduced to bones and dust, should we really be raised up to be a new creation? 17:49. In reply the Quran says, say, nay, be you stones or iron, or created matter which, in your minds, is hardest to be raised up. Yet you will be raised up. 17:50-51. In Surah Hajj, it states that if you have any doubt as to how you will get life after death, then you should reflect on your present existence. You were nothing. Then your life was begun from inert material, clay, and after going through various stages, you reached this present form. Then your body reaches old age, and you lose your physical abilities, and the machinery of your body wears out. Reflect that if life can begin from inert material, then why can a new life not be brought into existence in a similar way? This is so, because Allah is the reality. It is He who gives life to the dead, and it is He who has fixed scales for all things. 22:6. In this current life, because you see the birth of children in front of your eyes, you are not surprised by this. If this life was not in front of you and someone had mentioned this birth process to you, you would have been astonished at this, and would have rejected this as well. This is not intelligent or logical to accept one part of a law because it is visible with physical evidence, and to reject outright another part of the law just because it is not yet tangibly visible. In Surah Yasin it is stated, He, man, says, who can give life to dry bones and decomposed ones. At that, say, He will give them life who created them for the first time. For He is well versed in every kind of creation. 36:78-79. Now, as you say, at least his bones exist, but at the time of his first creation there was nothing present, not even bones, and even then it developed into a human being. Therefore, based on this logic, what can be the reason for denying a new life? In Surah Dukhan, the demand is mentioned that we will only accept your claim that man can be brought back to life after death, if you bring our deceased forefathers back to life. 44, 35-36. In another verse it is stated, "And they say, what is there but our life in this world? We shall die and we live, and nothing but time can destroy us. But of that they have no knowledge. They merely conjecture." Zun 45:24. A little later, the Quran says that if this life is confined to the physical human life and there is nothing more to a human being, then there is no difference between a human's life and an animal's life, it is the same. According to this dogma, how can they then differentiate themselves from animals? While those who reject Allah will enjoy this world, and eat as cattle eat, and the fire will be their abode. 48:12, in Surah Kahf. In reply to their objection that after a body disintegrates into the earth, how can man get another life, the Quran says that we know how much is taken away by the earth from the human body. 54. And what thing is left behind which can be given a new life? Further on, it is stated that we did not get tired after their first creation, nor will recreating them be any more effort. Were we then weary with the first creation, that they should be in confused doubt about a new creation? 50:15. Nay, we are able to put together in perfect order the very tips of his fingers. 75:4. After dealing with these various objections, the Quran makes it clear that the real reason for the denial to accept this possibility is something else. And that is the thief hidden in their subconscious, that they do not wish to take responsibility for the results of the deeds. For that they used not to fear any account for the deeds. 78:27. They do not wish that they should be held accountable for the crimes that they used to be busy in. They do not wish that this peace and contentment, which is not really peace but only a self-deception, be snatched away from them, i.e., we should be able to do whatever we wish and there should be none to question us. Belief in the next life raises a sense of responsibility in man, and they do not wish to give birth to this sense of responsibility. But what difference does their denial make to reality? What, by closing one's eyes will the sun stop shining? So tell them that regarding the possibility of life after death, even if you try 1,000,000 times to avoid thinking about it, this is going to take place. Then shall each self know what it has sent forward and what it has kept back. 82:5. Have you pondered on the fact that the basis of all these objections is based on the materialistic concept of life, i.e., this belief that man is defined by his physical body alone. As long as the machinery of his body follows the physical laws, he remains alive. When death stops this machinery, man ends and nothing is left. The natural consequence of this concept of life is that if, for example, one makes such an arrangement whereby whatever he does, he is never caught by society, then there is no power in the world which can stop him from cruelty and oppression and deceit and deception. Then no concept of permanent values or of an external immutable law can remain other than the self-created constitution and laws. Its consequence is that hell in which today's world is ablaze and smoldering. From the materialistic concept of life. From the above you will have realized why the Quran puts so much emphasis on conviction about life in the hereafter, and why Iman is essential for deeds to be righteous. 14.41 Important issue. It has been already noted that according to the Quran, every human being is given a self, or personality. This self is in an undeveloped form. On this earth, the purpose of human life is to develop this self to that extent from which it becomes capable of being able to move on to the next evolutionary stage of life in the journey of further development. B. The natural consequence of the presence of the human self is the emergence of the ability to make choices and to be responsible for the choices. Due to this, man becomes different from all other animals. C. Whatever man does by using his choice and intention, that effect is imprinted on his self. If these are good deeds, then the accumulated effect of these deeds will develop his self in due proportion. If the balance of these positive effects exceeds those of the negative effects, then this self is characterized as a developed self, and in the hereafter becomes eligible for a life in paradise. If this balance is light, then that self remains undeveloped. In the hereafter it is called hell. D. The criteria for any deed to be declared good or bad is, according to the revelation of Allah which is now preserved in the folds of the Quran. From these explanations it is clear that the human self is only affected by those deeds which an individual does through his own choice and intention. Regarding the decisions in which his choice is not involved, he cannot be held accountable for these, and therefore they do not affect his self. If someone has never heard about the standards for right and wrong which have been set by the revelation, the Quran, then all he can do is those deeds which he feels are right to him and avoid those which he thinks are wrong. However, this does not necessarily mean that what he considers to be good is in actual fact good. In the world there are hundreds of wrong deeds which people do with a genuine and sincere belief that these are good. Obviously the results of such deeds cannot be good. Wrong deeds will always have wrong effects, irrespective of how sincere the intention behind it. How many wrong medicines are given to patients with good intentions, but which leave their adverse effects and ultimately may even lead to death. It is also possible that the criteria given by the revelation reaches a person, but he does not have the necessary intellect or mental ability to understand it or make decisions based on it. G. Children, those with mental health issues, or people who are very backward. Those people who have the ability to reason and use their intellect, but do not wish to make use of it, and make the decisions based on emotive thinking, they will be responsible for what they do. From the above it is evident that responsibility is imposed on that individual who has received the revelation and who also has the ability to think and make decisions. Those who are not in this category are outside the remit of this aspect of accountability for the deeds. They will be counted in the category of other things in the universe such as inanimate objects or animals. The Quran makes these 2 points clear in various verses. The first point is that these people should have received the revelation. In Surah Mu'min, it is stated that the inmates of hell will ask the guardians of hell if the intensity of the punishment can be reduced, and the reply will be, those in the fire will say to the keepers of hell, pray to your Rabb to lighten us the penalty for a day. At least, they will say, did there not come to you your messengers with clear signs? They will say, yes. They will reply, then pray. As you like, nothing will happen. Opening parenthesis. 40, 49 to 50. See also 67, 8 to 9. In Surah Kahf it is stated that on the day of judgment the criminals will accuse each other and there will be a reply from Allah. He will say, dispute not with each other in my presence. I had already in advance sent you warning. 50, 28. As already written, the same principle applies to the destruction of nation-states as well. Until a nation has not been clearly shown both the right and the wrong path, it is not destroyed. C. 6. 131, 9. 115, 17. 15, 26. 208 to 209, and 30. 9. In Surah Qasas, it is noted to such an extent that the messenger used to come to the capital of a nation-state. 28. 59. It is obvious that after the ending of messengerhood, this responsibility for passing on the message, the Quran, to other people and nation-states, lies with the Muslim Ummah who read and understand the revelation. As far as the second point is concerned, the responsibility lies with that individual who has the ability to understand and think about the message. In this regard, the Quran is very clear. Many are men, rural and city dwellers, we have made for hell. They have hearts wherewith they understand not, eyes wherewith they see not, and ears wherewith they hear not. They are like cattle, nay more misguided, for they are heedless. 7. 179. In Surah Mulk, the denizens of hell will say. They will further say, had we but listened or used our intelligence, we should not now be among the companions of the blazing fire. 67. 10. The same has been declared about the nations which are destroyed, that in spite of being able to think and reason they did not use their intellect. 29. 38, 46. 26. About the Quranic truths themselves. It is stated that only those benefit from them who have a mind which they use to listen, think and reason with, or when they are told something, they listen to it attentively and then carefully pursue it. 50. 37. Therefore, the responsibility is his, to whom the message of Allah, i.e., the Quran, has reached, who has the ability to understand, think and reason, who does a deed with deliberate intention and inclination. 33 to 5, 16 to 106. These are those deeds whose effects leave an imprint on the human self. Examples of these details will be covered under the subject of Jahannam, i.e. hell.